The next day, the sign was removed. Then next thing I saw, kids trying to run up inside the house. So then the bank came back out, staked the sign again. So the sign was removed. So my question is, do the village have a listing of houses that's up for sale, up to buy? They know what's going on, so they can detect if there's squatting going on or not?
I'm not sure what list the village maintains, but some villages do have a list of all vacant properties. Some villages don't. I'm not sure about that process. But when you see a sign in the yard, the bank hasn't put that sign in the yard. The bank, they're in California, they're in Texas, they don't put signs in the yard.
Representative.
They list the property with a broker, such as Mika Real Estate or some others. When we can put a sign, there are times when we can't put a sign in the yard because of the legal process, but we put like a poster in the window, so if you see anything going on with this house, this is the number you can call. Because we can't officially put the sign because it's not officially listed yet. But if there is a sign in the yard, that sign should have a real estate company's name on it and a phone number.
Right.
Make note of that. Call. Sometimes signs are put in the yard that are not legal. They're just trying to lure people to perpetrate a scam to get somebody to rent this house and collect the rent that they're not entitled to collect because they don't even own the house. That does happen. We all know it happens. But when you see a sign in the yard, take the name and the number. If there's anything going on suspiciously, call the real estate. Because if the real estate is really listing this property, real estate who knows who the bank is, they know who the preservation company is. So there's a chain of steps that we can go through to report that. And we can find out if that's an illegal sign in the yard too. So take the number and call. Because people will move into vacant houses. They will. You know, especially when it's cold, to get out of the cold. They will move into vacant houses. Now, when somebody is buying the house, the sign, for at least our process, the sign stays in that yard until that house has been closed on. And then we come back and pick up our sign and pick up our lockbox. Because now the property legally is the owner of the new buyer. The new buyer owns it, so we have no legal right to the property anymore. So we pick up our sign and our lockbox. But in the meantime, while this process is going on, somebody may, like a vandal, may go in the house and squat in the house, but our inspectors go out to our properties on once or twice a month just to see what's going on. So that if there's any illegal activity, if there's any vandalism, we have to report it to the bank because the bank is our client. Okay. So we have to report it to the bank so that they can authorize us to do what needs to be done. Either send preservation out there to board it up or whatever, we do a police report. So we're checking, our staff, our employees are checking on the properties in our inventory. Now, if it's not in our inventory, it's not listed with us, then there's nothing we can do about it. But if it's in our inventory, we're coming out there checking. And if you, as a neighbor, see something going on, our sign is in the yard, you pick up the phone and call us, because we're going to send one of our staff people out there, because we are mandated to make a report and send it to the bank so they can authorize us to take additional steps.
The question, is the village required to inspect the vacant property? You guys
That's
got
a village question.
In your legal protocol state that you guys go out and inspect vacant property, or if something's going on irrelevant?
If it's not a sale,
Right.
or if there's a sale going on, which one are you
If
asking?
it's not a sale.
If it's not a sale, we do not just go and check. We do get registrations for vacant property. The banks are required, if the property is vacant for 60 days or more, to submit to us along with a fee, the vacant property registration.
Okay.
And we've really enforced that a little bit more, and we seem to have had an increase in banks this year, well, last year, I should say, registering. Yes.
I would like to ask, you say you're with Mika Realty?
Mika Real Estate.
Real estate, yes.
In Washington, with Mika Real Estate, yes.
Have you provided a list of properties that you currently have on file now for the Village of Dolton?
Well, the Village of Dolton has not, to my knowledge, asked us to provide a listing of our REO properties, the properties we have in our inventory. We have it in our office because the banks are our clients. But at this point, to my knowledge, there is no requirement to provide the village with a list other than when we get a property in our inventory, be it for sale or if it's, we call it pre-list. That means all the legal steps have not been completed yet, so we can't actually list that property for sale. but we're going to be listing it once the judicial process has been completed. All properties that we have in our inventory, whether they're ready for sale or pre-list, if they're vacant, then if the vacant property registration has not already been done by the bank with the village, then we as the real estate broker have to complete the vacant property registration and pay the fee with the village. That's how we let them know, not only this village, but other villages too, because we service the whole Southland, Chicago suburbs, and Indiana. But we have to complete that vacant property registration, telling them, hey, here's a vacant property, that's on your list. We are the people, we are the contact, we're not the owners, we're the contacts. So if there's an issue with this property, you let us know. We're paying your fee, we're filing it with you, if the bank hasn't already done that before we get the property. So yes, that's how we inform them that we have a vacant property. Now, some properties we get, we're still going through the judicial process. Sometimes they even have to go through the eviction process to get the people out, so the people are still in there. So we would not register a vacant property if somebody's still legally in there. But if it's vacant, then we will register with the village a vacant property registration.
Do you do it independently or collectively with the total amount? Total amount?
We have to do it on each property we get in our inventory with that village,
I see.
if it's vacant.
Oh.
If the bank hasn't already, because see, a lot of things the bank has done before we actually get the property in our inventory to put up for sale, or to wait till the judicial process is over, and then we put it up for sale. If it hasn't already been done prior to us getting it, then yes, we do it.
Independently. But is it possible to have it collectively, a total of listing of addresses for your particular company
Of all the vacant
Vacant
properties
properties.
that we have,
in the village of Dolton?
where are you saying provide?
See, if
the
you
list?
register them independently as a vacant property, do you have a list in-house with all your vacant properties that you have in the village of Dolton?
Yes, we have a list of all our properties we have in our inventory. in
Would you
each
like a
village.
list?
Yes.
She said what she
Yes,
said. She
that's
wants
what
a
I'm
list
asking.
of
I wanna-
vacant properties in
Okay,
the
if
village
you
of Dolton.
could get with Rhonda and give her a list of the properties that you own in Dolton, that would be nice.
Well, we don't own them. We just-
Well,
we
represent,
just-
I'm sorry,
Represent.
that you represent, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
we could email her a list, and if she
Okay.
wants to
You
make
wanna
it
come and give
public.
her her card? Yes, I will be,
Why don't you
okay.
give it to the village, and then the village can get it from, anybody can get it from the village that way.
Yeah, that's fine, we can do that.
We can we've already provided it by doing the vacant property registration.
Yeah, but see,
That
that's
tells them,
independent.
Right, I understand what she's saying. She wants a
Yeah.
listing of all the properties that's available in Dalton.
Right.
yeah, that
She's
tells
only
them.
getting what's available through Meeker.
That's what she's saying.
Right.
Right, through
That's what
her
I-
agency.
Right.
Mhm.
All right.
Right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is directly to housing. I live on Grand Street on 146. We have quite a few rental properties there. What I'm asking now, how responsible is the landlord? What are you guys doing to the landlord that's consistently putting bad tenants in the property?
Fine.
They are consistent, the same houses, the vacant, after they putting tenants in, bad tenants after bad tenants after bad tenants.
So if we don't receive any notification that they're bad tenants, we don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right, you have to call and notify housing. Even if you think you're being,
Have been out several times, like I said, I live on Grand Street, and we have laid like four rental properties on our block. Police consistently is at them places. Consistent, and the landlord just keep putting one bad tenant after the other in that property.
okay, I'll get with the police chief for Grant, the 146th Street block, to look at the reports to see what's going on and see if there has been a consistency in them.
We have a block, and we
Okay.
truly try to take
Oh,
care
yeah,
of our
Officer
property,
Dick
and,
Yeah.
and we definitely believe in cause.
Well, before you leave today, make sure I get your name and number.
Sure,
Okay?
thank you.
All right, thanks.
That, doesn't that also come under the crime-free?
It does, yes.
One more.
Because I've noticed that, Riverdale has it, and, quite a few other
Oh,
suburban.
Yes.
And requires all the landlords to at least attend the classes. And from those classes, you will find exactly what to do in terms of you can't have any criminal backgrounds in there. And you have to monitor, or you have to get a, it's like you do for your, what do you call it? If they've been bad tenants somewhere else, or if they've been incarcerated, all of that comes out.
Right. Yeah. Actually, there is a crime-free lease addendum that we require that all landlords and the tenants sign off. And it does say that basically you can proceed with the eviction process by having a tenant sign this saying, if the police have came out on numerous occasions and this is a bad tenant, it makes the process for getting rid of them much easier.
It also does this, before the tenant can, before you can bring a tenant into the, if they have, any judgments against them, it is also brought to the village's attention, and the village has to sign off before that, you allow that tenant to come in the property.
I understand that you can't discriminate, and you know, that you can't determine that this is a bad tenant, we not taking them. But what I'm just asking is, what's the responsibility of the landlord? How do, that he keep bringing bad tenants in?
I'm sorry, what makes the tenant bad? Are you saying
I mean,
cutting the grass, is
they-
it drug dealing, or what? It's a lot of different.
That's what I'm saying, all of above.
Oh.
All of above, and I'm just saying that whereas the landlord keep doing it, I'm being fine with my grass, that's a teaching weed on my alley, look bad. They look bad across the street all the time.
Do they start off being bad or
They
just?
start off being bad. You know, the landlord never comes out to cut the grass, the tenants don't cut the grass. You come out right now, the snow.
So you're only reporting it to police, not housing as well? or-
Well, as, you know, when the crime is there, but not to say that they don't cut, no, I'm not calling housing to say they don't cut their grass. Cause housing come out and find me when I don't cut mine. Who they finding when they ain't cutting theirs?
They should be getting a citation as well.
And the garbage is ridiculous sometimes. It's ridiculous. And, you know, it's just, I'm asking, who is finding, is the landlord being fined?
It's the
Is they doing us?
landlord's responsibility for the property to keep it up. Yes, not the tenant.
Okay,
It is
but
the landlord.
If you guys are finding him, then he should be doing something. If he coming out of pocket, then it look like he should be doing something to stop them tenants.
And I agree with you, and with that being said, we're gonna have another seminar for landlord and renter, because I see your issue
I'm
needs
very
a lot of
upset.
information. Yeah, we're gonna do that in March.
And I want to say, you give village manager, give us that address of this house that you're definitely talking about. We can really look at the 4 houses, or the 5 or the 6. We can really look into it. We just, housing, it seems like they're not aware of it, even though you did tell police that information from police did not trickle down to housing. But now you brought it to 3 trustees' attention right now. If you give us those 4 addresses, we really can look into it. You need you to give us those addresses. We can figure out who the owner is and start finding them and calling them. So that problem can be solved. We just been aware of this problem on your block now.
But you know what, I do want to applaud Dolton that we did have a bad tenant on our block, on our corner. They did get rid of it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Drug dealers.
Thank you, trustee, that's very important. Not only give your information to myself, but also to Ms. Fields. But if we don't know about it, we can't correct it. We don't have, in my opinion, enough code enforcement officers out there. There are 75 miles of streets in this town. There are over 8,000 residents, houses in this town. We need to get more code enforcement people. People that we need to not hire is get Chief Franklin's people who are out on the street 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who can write a ticket for anything from a loose dog to a fatal shooting. We have to get them to be our eyes on the street. That's what we need to do, and we will get to that. But keep calling the police, that's for your crime freak. When it's coming to issues about grass, garbage, anything else, that's when you call housing. Then we can send out a code enforcement officer in particular. To answer your question, why you and why not your neighbor, you may have somebody that's calling in on you, and we don't know. And I mean, it's a possibility, just like you're calling in on this house, somebody may have called in on you. I don't know that for a fact, but that's usually what happens. We don't aggressively go out, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we don't aggressively go out and ride the street every day looking for a house that has too much garbage in the front, grass not cut, branches hanging, whatever the case is. We need to become more aggressive. The problem we have with that is not everybody in this town is a tenant. They are a property owner. And when we write that ticket for $100 or $150, I can tell you, they know where to find me, they know where to find the mayor, they know where to find these trustees. Why'd you write me a ticket? I've been here 28 years. Sorry, you gotta keep your house up. If we want to get people to invest in this community, raise their children to live here, and work here, and pray here, then everybody has to be treated equally. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I want to talk about inspection. It's $200 for a sales inspection and a as-is inspection. It's $150 for a deed in lieu. I'm gonna have the attorney explain what a deed in lieu is, and then it's $200 for a quick claim sale. And I'm gonna have him explain that as well, just to give you some information.
A deed in lieu is a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And what that does is it's an agreement between the homeowner and the bank that the bank will not go after them if they voluntarily turn their property over to the bank. When you take out a mortgage loan, you're making two promises. One promise is that if you don't pay your monthly mortgage, the bank has the right to take your property back. The other promise is that you're going to repay that money, even if the bank takes the property back. When the bank takes the property back, they have to sell it at a public auction. And when they sell it at a public auction, if you, just as numbers, if you borrowed $100,000 from the bank to buy this house, and they take it back, and they sell it at a public auction, and they're only able to get $75,000 for it, you still owe them $25,000 even though they've taken your house back. To avoid that, you can possibly do a deed in lieu of foreclosure where you tell the bank, look, I know that my house now is not worth the amount of money I owe you on it, but I'm not going to make you foreclose on my house. I'll voluntarily give you the house back and I'll move out, and in exchange for that, I want an agreement from you that you will not sue me for the balance of the money that I might owe you. And depending on what the difference in values are, banks are very willing to do that because the foreclosure process could be very arduous for them and could take a long time. And sometimes the bank feels they're much better off just getting the property back right away, not having to move somebody out and getting it back on the market. So that's what a deed in lieu of foreclosure is. Just an agreement between the homeowner and the bank. They'll give the house back in exchange for the bank not suing them for any balance that might still be owed on the house. A quick claim sale is and I'm almost hesitant to talk about this because a lot of these are just scams. And what happens is somebody comes to you and says, well, gee, I know that you owe a lot of money on the house, and what I'm gonna be willing to do is if you sign your house over to me, give me a quick claim deed, I'll own it, and very often the trade-off is I'm gonna let you live there, and all you gotta do is pay me some minimal rent, and you can continue to live there. It's been my experience that most of these situations are scams. And what they're trying to do, somebody's trying to get title to your house because they think, very often, they think the house is worth more than what you owe on it. And what they'll do is they'll get the title to the house, and then they'll try to borrow more money against the house. Ultimately, the house will get foreclosed on, and you're gonna get put out in the street. But basically what it is somebody coming up to you and saying, you know, give me a quick claim deed, and I'll own your house, and I'll be responsible for the payments. And you're gonna either pay me rent, or, you know, 5 years from now, you can buy the house back from me at the same price. Usually by then, it's all over anyway. The scam has already played out, and you've lost your money.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to those two items? Thank you. Next on the agenda, just a reminder, if you come in and do a rental inspection, the fee is $35 plus $50, which is the license fee. That brings your total to $85 per unit. And what I mean by per unit is, for example, if you own a 4-flat and you want an inspection for each unit, you pay $85 each unit. Another reminder, permits. Permits is for 120 days, that's 4 months. So you come in and you're doing work on a property and you need to pull a permit, you have 4 months to complete the work. Some educational information, home buyers educational class. It is a 1-day, 8-hour workshop. It's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a Saturday. And the next one is February 22nd and March 29th. And the location is East Hazelcrest Village Hall, 1906 West 174th Street, East Hazelcrest, Illinois 60429. And if you would like to register, you can reach them by 773-329-4243. Again, the number is 773-329-4243. And again, this flyer is on the table to my left. Last but not least, the next item on the agenda is our new escrow procedure. For those that did not attend the meeting, which was last Monday, we passed an ordinance stating that we are now charging $500 for owner-occupied or escrow, and for an investor, we are charging only $1,000. Before that, it was a sliding scale. So, for instance, it can range from $1,000 to $3,000. If you need a furnace and a roof, that's how they was coming up with the different numbers. So you could be in between that number. Right now, it's one flat fee, which is if you are coming into town and you want to buy a house and live here, it's only $500 of your money that you have to put up. Because the problem we was having is the escrow was ridiculously high. Say you bought a house and it cost $10,000. Your escrow will be $7,000. So how can you possibly do the work? I understand you need money to do rehab, but we're trying to basically help you out and get the work done so that we can start collecting taxes off them properties. So that was just an FYI. $500 again is for owner-occupied. Investors is $1,000.
Excuse me, how long is the escrow, be
In place?
in place for?
It's in place
4 months,
for
4 months?
4 months? 4 months?
120 days.
Wait a minute, what?
Escrow?
You mean for this ordinance that I'm talking
The
about?
escrow,
No,
once
this,
you put your escrow up for $500 or $1,000, how long does it
but
exist?
you can release, 4 months to
4
do the work.
months,
That's the
okay.
permit. You put it for 4 months. She ain't right, sorry.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Next on the agenda, we have housing needs. One thing we want to talk about, trustees, is failure to comply with annual rental inspection. I'm gonna let Denise speak a little bit about this because she got 2 stories to tell you. She had 2 incidents upstairs in regards to failure to comply with rental annual inspection, and then failure to properly secure vacant property. And just for your information, it's $50 right now that's in place, and that's too low. So we would like to increase those fees.
Excuse me. The annual rental inspection is for the property owners and the landlords who are renting individual homes or unit buildings. So today, if they do not comply with that, we give them a citation, which is $50. So we'd like to see that fee raised to at least $100 for a fine. Annually, they have to renew by April 30th each year, and that's business licenses, our annual rental inspection licenses for those property owners. The failure to properly secure vacant buildings is kind of what everybody was talking about when the banks or whomever owns those properties and they do not, someone walks away from them and they leave them unsecured. After the 60 days, we'd like to be able to charge the banks a direct fee. I believe we kind of talked about $250, piggybacking off of Chicago's new ordinance for abandoned property. So, is there anything?
No, that's for that question.
Anybody have any questions about vacant properties or the annual rental process? And if you have rental units, you need to make sure that you are getting your rentals in before April 30th, because the fees double after April 30th. So 85 becomes 170.
The escrow, when,
The annual rental process. And if you have rental units, you need to make sure that you are getting your rentals in before April 30th, because the fees double after April 30th. So 85 becomes 170.
the escrow, when does the escrows take place? When you first purchase a property or when you actually intend to looking at a property?
Once the inspection has been done,
Mhm.
that's when the escrow is set. And the escrow has to be put up prior to closing on the
Okay,
property.
gotcha.
You cannot go to closing, because all fines, fees, outstanding water bills will have to be paid prior to closing. Any other questions?
Would that be, as far as like vacant properties or anything that the village of Dolton owns, would there be any type of auctions or anything to try to sell some of these?
That's Tiffany. Yes, come April.
Yes, I was gonna get to that, but I was gonna say that the last.
You said last but not least, so I'm not sure.
But right now, we're currently working on that. We're going over to make sure that we own all our property that we are gonna put up for auction. So we basically crossing our T's, dotting our I's before we announce the list. But you will hear that in my report come March. Right, Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Did you wanna, make any comments on that?
Yes, we have been working on collecting a list. Ms. Fields, again, has been working with a couple other staff members. We presented a list to the village board. They have given me the authority to prepare for an auction, which Ms. Trustee Henyard has said will be held in April. We haven't identified each and every piece yet, but at least we have a list. Believe it or not, we had a lot of lists, right, Ms. Fields? And none of them really were coinciding with each other, so we had to figure out what we actually owned. We, in doing that, just as a little side note, found something interesting. We have a village-owned piece of property that somebody's living in that hasn't paid his rent, hasn't paid his water until they shut it off yesterday. We still haven't gotten paid, and that person's been in there for over 5 years. So, all joking aside, thanks to the elected officials that got elected in May of 2013, they have inherited nightmares. We are attempting collectively, staff and the board, to muddle through all of this. And when I spoke to the gentleman that's living there, he said, well, I bought it. I said, do you have any papers? Well, no. Okay, now I have to talk to my board. What's the next step? Next step could be eviction. It could be selling it